Hello, friends. So earlier this week, I asked you a question about what you think happens to the things that go in your recycle bin. And some of you thought of some ideas. Today we are going to read a book about recycling by one of our favorite nonfiction authors, Gail Gibbons. And remember, we talked about the word recycle means to make something new out of something old. So we're going to learn how that works today. Some of you might have some ideas about how it works, but we're going to learn a little bit more about how it works. So how you use old materials that you've already used to make new materials. So for instance, at school, we recycle paper, right? So the paper that we've recycled in the recycle bin is made into new paper. It might be made into new paper like this, or maybe made into paper that they use to make a book. What do you guys think about a can like this? Do we recycle cans? Do you recycle cans at home? So if you recycle a can, it could be made into another can, or it could be made into another thing that is made of the same material. All right, so we're going to learn a little bit more about that with our friend Gail Gibbons. Okay, so I already told you it's a nonfiction book, so it's an informational text. So we are going to be learning real facts and information from Gail Gibbons. Okay, and there's our title page, and look at all the different things you can recycle that we're going to learn about. More and more garbage. Every day, people throw more trash away. As the world population increases, more people throw more trash away. Garbage trucks come to pick it up, but where does all this trash go? So that word population means the number of people. We're talking about the number of people, but you could have an animal population would be the number of animals. This picture I really think is very interesting because I didn't know this before I read this book. So most of the garbage is hauled away to sanitary landfills. A landfill is a place where garbage is dumped in heaps from garbage trucks. Some sanitary landfills are lined on the bottom with a layer of clay, soil covered with plastic. So this picture is really like a diagram. It's got labels on it. So you see the trash truck dumping the trash in here. And then it gives you some information. So see how this is shaped like a big bowl shape? So this is lined with clay, is this orangish color. And then there's a plastic lining, which is that thin black color. And it says over here, the lining of clay and plastic keep the leachate from leaking into and poisoning the soil. It also keeps leachate from getting into groundwater, which is often used for drinking water. So if you see the water that's way down here, there's water way underneath our earth, our soil that we see, and it is often used for drinking water. So some people who live in the country, they dig way down deep, they dig wells to get to that drinking water. And if you had chemicals and yucky stuff from your garbage leaking into that water, people would be drinking it and getting sick. Leachate is a powerful substance that is produced when rotting garbage mixes with rainwater. So you can imagine that rain falls on the landfill, and this garbage is decomposing, right? It's breaking apart, it's rotting, and it forms this substance called leachate. All right, so I don't know if you noticed there's a bulldozer over here. So here's the bulldozer up close. Bulldozers push the garbage into neat piles. Then they cover it up with dirt so that it won't smell and so that the animals and bugs will stay away. Most people don't want landfills near where they live. And besides, there's so much garbage now that in many places there isn't enough room to bury all of it. Where can it all go? So this is a problem that a lot of people try to find a solution to, that we make a lot of garbage. One solution, so a solution is a way to fix a problem, is to cut down on the amount of trash we make. So the fancy word for that is to reduce. So that means use less, make less trash. We can do this by recycling some of our garbage to make it into new things. Recycling means reusing materials instead of throwing them away. So reusing materials like a lot of us use reusable bottles or reusable bags. It's something that you can use not just one time, but again and again. Okay, so now we have some headings on the top of our pages, okay? So we have a topic at the top of our page that's going to tell us what this section is about. So this section is about paper. So this is about recycling paper. It takes a lot of trees and energy to make paper. In fact, people in the United States cut down 850 million trees to make paper products each year. So that's just in our country, guys. 850 million trees just for the United States. When the trees are cut down, they are turned into wood chips. The wood chips are mixed with chemicals and water to make pulp. The pulp is spread out on a moving screen to make it a thin layer of fibers. When the layer of fibers dries, it becomes paper. Okay, so here's the wood chips that is cut up, mixed with chemicals and water to become pulp, and then they flatten it out. This is a paper making machine. So they use a machine like that to make it super flat, just like paper is when we use it. Newspaper, magazines, and many other things are made from paper. When things are through being used, they shouldn't be thrown away. Recycle. So this is a way you can collect old newspapers and break down cardboard boxes to recycle them. Most towns and cities have recycling centers where bundles of old paper can be dropped off. In some places, trash collectors pick up the bundles of paper and take them away for recycling. So in Medford, we have recycling trucks that come and recycling bins that you use at your houses. But in other towns and smaller towns, you have to take it there yourself. Old paper can be turned back into pulp and made into new recycled paper, using less energy than it takes to produce new paper from raw materials. So it takes less energy to make old paper into new paper than it does to cut down new trees and do it that way. Recycling paper saves trees and forests, which make oxygen and help keep the air clean. Saving forests protects the homes of many animals. We know that, right? Okay, so we have a new heading here. This one's about recycling glass. It takes lime, soda ash, and sand called silica to make glass. These three elements are mixed together and heated at a very high temperature to make a glassy liquid. Measured amounts, sometimes dyed, are dropped into forming machines where the liquid hardens to make bottles and jars. So they use these materials, they get them really hot and they turn into liquid, and then they use a special machine to shape them into the shapes they want, like jars or bottles. Many products come in glass bottles or jars. So think about things that you eat that might come in glass bottles or jars. I'm thinking of pickles or peanut butter. Sometimes when they are through being used, they are just thrown away. It would take thousands of years for them to biodegrade at a landfill. So that's the same kind of word as decompose. So it would take thousands of years for something that's glass to break down and go back into the earth again. Instead, these bottles and jars could be reused. Recycle. So let's see how you recycle. So many bottles are returnable. So you might have noticed at the grocery store, there's often a machine where you return bottles. A small deposit is paid when the bottles are bought, and when they're returned, the deposit is paid back. Most of the time, the bottles are sent back to the company that made them, where they are sterilized and refilled. So let's say you get a bottle of soda and you drink the soda and then you take it back to the return machine, that means that the return machine, first of all, it gives you 5 cents back for returning your bottle. And then they send it back to the company. And the company washes it with really special stuff that makes it super clean. And then they refill the bottle and send it back out to sell again. So they're reusing it. Sometimes the bottles are recycled into new glass. Now this is cool because I think this machine looks cool. It takes much less energy and creates less pollution to make new glass from old glass. The glass is crushed. That's this machine here. Isn't that cool? It's crushed up and remelted. Next, recycled liquid glass is poured into the forming machines and stamped into new glass products. The sand, lime, and soda ash don't have to be dug again, which would waste precious natural resources and destroy forests and fields. So instead of taking, remember all the materials that we used to make glass in the first place? The lime and silica and soda ash? Those materials come from the earth. So when you recycle glass wrong page. When you recycle glass, you don't have to dig up more materials from the earth. You can use the ones that we've already used before. And it helps the planet and the environment. All right, here's the cans. Most cans are made from aluminum. It takes many energy resources and creates pollution to produce pure aluminum. First, a special mineral called bauxite is mixed with soda ash and lime. So here's all the ingredients over here. And when the mixture is put under pressure, that means like smushing it really tight, aluminum is left as a byproduct. The aluminum is heated and poured into molds to make cans. Many products, such as soda and foods, are sold in aluminum cans. Often, when the cans are empty, they are just tossed away. It takes about 500 years for an aluminum can to biodegrade in a landfill. But these aluminum cans can be reused and recycled. Like glass bottles, many cans are returnable for a deposit refund. After the cans are returned, they're sent to plants to be ground into small metal chips. And these chips are melted down and made into aluminum bars, which are pressed into thin sheets of recycled aluminum. So it's kind of like the glass, and actually kind of like the paper as well. They chop it up into teeny tiny bits. And then they melt it down just like glass, and they put it into flat sheets like that. And then the sheets are then sold to can makers to be made into new cans. And just like the other materials we talked about, it takes a lot less energy and makes a lot less pollution than it does to make new aluminum from aluminum. Okay, we got 2 more materials. This is an important one, plastic, because we use a lot of plastic in our world. And wait till you hear how long it takes to decompose and biodegrade. Plastic bottles, plastic bags, plastic plates, plastic containers. Most plastic is made from molecules called polymers, which are derived from petroleum. The plastic is heated, sometimes dyed, and poured into molds. So you probably think of all the things you use that have plastic, right? Like your laundry detergent, your soap, your hand sanitizer. A lot of your toys are made of plastic. There's lots of plastic. A big problem with plastic is that it doesn't biodegrade. It can last forever. Instead of being allowed to fill the landfills, litter roadsides, and harm wildlife, plastic can be recycled and used again. Like glass bottles and aluminum cans, some plastic bottles can be returned for a deposit refund. These bottles will be sent away to be recycled into new plastic products. First, the old plastic is cleaned, then it is chopped up melted down, and molded into recycled products. Recycling plastic saves natural resources, such as oil, and prevents pollution caused by the manufacturing of plastic. Okay, ready for the worst one of all? This is styrofoam. And you know what? We're actually using a lot less styrofoam these days than we used to when I was a kid. The fancy word for it is polystyrene. Okay, and you probably see it in takeout containers. That is one of the most common ways you see styrofoam. You also see it in these things. These are sometimes called packing peanuts, and they come in packages to protect the things that you're sending from getting damaged in the mail. Many products are made from polystyrene, sometimes called styrofoam, such as cups, fast food packaging, and packing materials. Some polystyrene is made from using gases called Miss Gas is going to have trouble saying that. Chlorofluorocarbons, also called CFCs. These chemicals are harmful to people and animals. When they are burned, they create poisonous gases and also harm the ozone layer surrounding our planet. So the ozone layer, I think we talked about this in that Oliver Jeffers book about the Earth, but it's like an invisible shield. It's made up of gases that surround the Earth, and it protects us from the sun. So without the ozone layer, our Earth would get really hot, and that would be a whole other problem. So when you burn things like styrofoam, it sends up chemicals into the air that hurt the ozone layer, and that's dangerous for humans and for animals. Unfortunately, it's cheaper, which means it costs less money to make new styrofoam than to recycle it. So it actually costs a lot of money to recycle styrofoam, so that means people don't really want to do it. And there are a few useful products that can be made from recycled styrofoam. Plus, styrofoam is not biodegradable. Like plastic, it can last forever. The more polystyrene that is used and thrown away, the more garbage will sit in landfills for years and years. So it is best, if you can, to not use or buy things that have styrofoam. This is the sad part. Styrofoam or polystyrene is dangerous to sea animals too. It floats on the water and sometimes looks like food. When sea animals try to eat it, their systems get clogged and often they starve to death. If more and more people learn to recycle, there will be less garbage and our planet will be a safer and healthier place to live. Recycling can become a habit that is fun and easy. So a habit is something that you do all the time. It's something you do over and over and over again, right? So that is a lot of information in that book from Gail Gibbons, I know. I think the important things for us to remember are that for materials that we throw away, the fewer materials that we put in a landfill, which is just polluting the environment, right? Causing harm to the environment. We want to put less materials in here. So the more things that you can recycle to be made into new products, or even better, if you can use less of them to begin with. All right. So instead of using plastic bags at the grocery store, you can reuse your bags. You actually can't do it right now because of the virus, but typically you can. And if you use a reusable water bottle instead of plastic water bottles that you throw away every time, that helps the earth too. The same thing with toys. Instead of throwing away your toys, give them to somebody who's maybe younger than you or needs toys and doesn't have them. Those are all ways that you can help the planet by using less and throwing away less. We are going to talk more about it next week, and we're also going to take a look at what the inside of a recycling plant looks like, which is really cool. All right.